The sun was just peeking over the ridge, painting the fields in soft gold, when Eleanor Voss came stomping up my gravel driveway. Her stilettos stabbed the earth like they were out for blood, sharp enough to puncture a tire. She didn't bother with a hello, just pointed a manicured finger at Daniel, who was knee-deep in mud, wrestling with a sagging fence post. I watched from the porch, coffee mug in hand, steam curling into the chilly air, as she marched toward him like a general on a mission. "Ew," she snapped, her voice slicing through the quiet. "This fence VY OLAT's code, and you're about an hour from a fine you won't forget." Daniel straightened, wiping his hands on his faded jeans, his face blank. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Don't play dumb with me. I'll drag you and your lazy boss to a meeting before you can blink." Daniel scratched his neck, head low. "I'll let the owner know, ma'am," he said, soft and slow. Eleanor huffed, spun on her heel, and clicked back down the drive, triumphant. But as she vanished around the bend, Daniel caught my eye across the field and flashed a grin-small sly, the kind of fox wears before a hunt. Eleanor had no clue what she just walked into. She'd been a thorn in my side since she moved into the cul-de-sac edging my farm, a sprawling 80 acres of pasture and history my great-grandfather carved out decades ago. Now, as Pine Hollow HOA president, Eleanor had turned that thorn into a dagger. To me, the farm was home, a legacy in the soil. To her, it was a blight on her suburban dream, and she'd made it her crusade to fix it. For weeks, she'd circled my land, clipboard in hand, scribbling about grass height, VY sibal cows. Even the smell of hay like the wind owed her an apology. The farm predated her HOA by generations, but she didn't care. She wanted control, and she thought Daniel was just another pawn. She didn't know Daniel wasn't some random handyman. He'd rolled up a month ago in a rusty pickup, flannel loose on his lean frame, boots scuffed to hell. He looked the part, quiet, unassuming, a guy who'd tip his hat and fade into the background. But Daniel was my oldest friend, a lawyer with a mind like a steel trap, and he'd come with a plan. He'd been playing farmhand, fixing fences, stacking hay, feeding chickens while keeping a leather notebook in his pocket, tracking every move Eleanor made. After she left that morning, I ambled down to the fence. "She's getting worse," I said, leaning on a rail, dust from her SUV still settling. Daniel kept scribbling. "Let her," he said, calm as ever. "The more she pushes, the tighter the noose." He tapped his pen on the page, then hammered the post, the thud echoing. I raised an eyebrow, but he didn't explain. That was Daniel, steady, measured, always 3 steps ahead. Eleanor's attacks ramped up fast. By midweek, she'd plastered a notice on my gate, yellow, obnoxious, stapled, and taped like she feared I'd miss it. "Emergency HOA meeting, property violations," it blared. I found it with Daniel, my blood simmering as he flipped it over, grinning faintly. "This'll be fun," he muttered, noting the details. Later, I passed her on the road. She slowed her SUV, lowered her sunglasses, and smirked like she'd already won. I gripped my truck's wheel, itching to yell that Daniel wasn't what she thought, but I held back. Daniel wanted her to dig deeper, so I let her. Next morning, she returned with a posse, 3 HOA board members with cameras and a nervous guy in a polo. They swarmed the farm, snapping pics of the barn, the tractor, even the scarecrow. Eleanor pointed at Daniel, stacking hay by the fence. "That's him," she said loudly. "The farmhand, lazy, useless, probably causing half these issues." The board nodded, whispering, while Daniel adjusted his cap, tilting the tiny camera in his shirt pocket. Eleanor strutted around, straw hat perched like a crown, oblivious to being recorded. That night, Daniel laid out his haul on my kitchen table, photos, VY Deos, timestamps, audio case file to rival a detective's. Trespassing, harassment, vandalism, he listed. "She's gift-wrapped it. She's blind," I said, sipping coffee, its bitterness matching my mood. "She's arrogant," Daniel corrected, eyes glinting. "We give her more rope, and she'll hang herself." Eleanor didn't let up. She flooded my mailbox with fake citations, sun-trimmed hedges. I had none. Livestock overcrowding. Nonsense. my tractor as an unauthorized recreational vehicle. She started barging in Yunnan vy Ted, once storming the east pasture to photograph my cows like they were criminals. Another time I caught her behind a shed, wrench in hand, messing with irrigation pipes while ranting in her phone about illegal plumbing. Daniel rounded the corner, feigning shock. "Is that allowed, ma'am?" he asked. She flustered, bolted, and he jotted it down. Her big move came a week later, a surprise inspection. She marched in with 5 board members and a contractor, measuring fence gaps, debating my chicken's aggressiveness, critiquing the gravel driveway. Daniel trailed them, notebook out, its hidden lens catching every word. Eleanor, glowing with authority, declared the violations undeniable. She even posted my goat's photos on the community board mid-chew, like mugshot stagging me with fines. I wanted to shove her clipboard somewhere dark, but Daniel's calm gaze held me steady. "She's setting the trap," he said, flipping through his file. "Let her keep walking." Then she pulled in Sheriff Amos. I was in the barn, fixing a hinge, when her SUV screeched up, Amos's cruiser behind. She leapt out, while VYing her clipboard, ranting about unlawful livestock and suspicious help. Amos, a grizzled man who'd known my family forever, stepped out with a tired sigh. Daniel stood by me, wiping his hands, cool as ice. Amos listened, then cut her off. "Eleanor, this farm's older than your HOA. It's not under your rules. Got real proof, or just hot air?" Her face reddened. "The bylaws don't apply," Amos said, firm. "Take it to the county if you must, but you're wasting my time." Daniel scribbled, pen steady. Eleanor retreated, muttering about legal channels, but her board looked spooked. That night, Daniel showed me the full case: trespassing, tampering, defamation, all documented. "She'll double down," he said, leaning back, "and we'll be waiting." She didn't back off. She called an emergency tribunal at the HOA clubhouse shed with peeling paint and a shaky podium. Flyers went up, emails blasted, and she strutted through Pine Hollow like a VY tour. I kept my routine feeding cows, mending barns while Daniel sharpened his plan. The meeting night, the clubhouse buzzed with neighbors, clutching coffee, whispering. Eleanor stood up front, flanked by 2 jittery board members, listing my crimes: unauthorized structures, unsightly livestock, suspicious loiterers. She pointed at Daniel, who'd slipped in quietly. "That farmhand's the problem," she sneered, while VYing papers she claimed were citations. I sat in back, arms crossed, while Daniel leaned against the wall, unnoticed. Mid-rant, Daniel stepped forward. "Can I speak?" he asked, voice calm but sharp. Eleanor waved him off. "Go on, admit your mess." He smiled, pulling a leather wallet and flipping it open. "Daniel Hayes, property attorney, licensed here, representing the farm's owner." The room froze, a gasp rippling through. Eleanor blinked, her clipboard shaking. Daniel laid his folder down, photos, VY Deos, audio, all damning. "Trespassing," he said, showing her behind a shed. "Vandalism," he added, playing her cutting a fence. "Harassment," he finished, her voice snarling insults. Murmurs erupted. Eleanor stammered. "He's just a farmhand." "That's the beauty," Daniel said. "I've been documenting you since day one." He showed her grinning past the property line. Her own EVY Denke flipped. "The farm's grandfather-editor citations are void. Your actions? Illegal." Sheriff Amos, who'd slipped in, stepped up. "Got enough for charges, Eleanor. County's on it." Her face collapsed, her petty empire crumbling. Board members fled, muttering apologies. Neighbors chuckled, shaking heads. Eleanor stormed out, Leah VY-ing her papers, her reign in ruins. She vanished for days. Then a for sale sign popped up in her yard, crooked and sad. Word spread Daniel's takedown became legend. The HOA board ousted her, declared my farm exempt, and barred future meddling. Charges were filed, her house hit the market, and she'd drive by occasionally, sunglasses hiding her glare. After Amos delivered the final summons, she faded. Daniel stayed not out of duty, but choice. He was my cousin, estranged since youth, who'd heard of Eleanor at a reunion and offered to help his way. The farmhand bit was his idea, and it worked perfectly. We patched the farm, laughing over coffee as neighbors retold the Eleanor fall. Final papers came, securing the farm's freedom. I framed them by my great-grandfather's photo, a quiet win. One evening, her packed SUV rolled past, last time. She didn't look back. Daniel tipped his hat. I raised my mug, and her tail lights vanished. The farm stood firm, simple, honest, victorious. Eleanor thought she'd outsmarted a farmer and his dim helper. She never saw the lawyer in flannel or the trap she'd built, step by smug step. Would you stand up and fight back, or accept the unreasonable pressure and control from the HOA? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with more people. Your small action gives us the motivation to keep bringing you more intense and engaging stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.